Hi everyone, my name is Nitya and this is Daybreak Stitchery. You're at my Flosstube channel. It's the end of the month and we're talking cross stitch. If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're coming back, hi, nice to see you again. This is my usual end of month check-in, but there's something a little special about today or this month. This month marks my first year Flosstube anniversary. So this is pretty exciting. So besides the usual, I'm going to show you some finishes, some whips I've been working on, and lots of new starts this month. But I'm also going to do some giveaways too. So let's just get into it, should we? Thank you for being here. Let's start with a couple of finishes I want to show you right off the bat. Okay, so the first one, it's an ink circles pattern, and it's called Aventail. Looks like this. It's teeny tiny. It's 57 by 57 stitches, so it's super small. And I've shown it before because I started it a couple months ago. And here's what it looks like finished. So this is on a 28 count cashel linen, but I don't know what it's called. I need to get over to Inspired Needle, which is my local needle workshop, because that's where I picked it up. These pieces were pre-cut to this size and like already serged, and they were stacked up on a display this summer when I was there. So only the top one had a label on it, and I didn't think to like take a picture or write it down. So I want to say it's like haunted or something. I tried to track it down online. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure what the fabric is called, but it is a 28 count cashel linen. The threads are thread gatherer silken colors. And the color is called Witch's Familiar. Witch, like a Halloween witch, which is familiar. And I love it because it's like very Mardi Gras. It's got purples, greens, and yellows. And it's perfect for this pattern. Usual kind of geometric, lots of curly cues and decorations on these ink circles patterns. So I had shown this earlier this summer when I started it, because over the summer I had gone to Inspired Needle, and this was one of the projects I had kitted up because it was just a small fabric, small pattern, and just one skein. And that thread gatherer, the silk, it's really beautiful, but I think you might remember if you've seen my older videos that I had trouble stitching with it because the skein was super twisted up. And I didn't take the time, like I wanted to start the project right away. So I just snipped a little part off of it and I was trying to stitch with it and it kept twisting back up. And it was so frustrating. I had put this away for some time. And then Matt, MBC Stitcher, had messaged me and just said, you know, that silk is going to be perfectly fine. You have to straighten it out. Just straighten it out, put it on a floss drop or lay it flat and it's going to be fine. And it totally was. Like 2 days before, like I knew I was going to stitch on this over a weekend. So a couple days before, I just untwisted the whole skein and I cut it into strips. And then I just laid it out on a sheet a couple days before. And then it was perfect to stitch on. It was so easy to stitch with. And I had probably done like a third of the pattern before I got really frustrated and put it aside. Well, when I picked it back up and my thread was straight, I finished it in an afternoon. This is totally like a weekend stitch. So I love it. I'm using, did I use 3? I think I used 3 strands of the thread gatherer silk over 2 because it's a 28 count. So like on 14 count Aida, 28 count linen, I tend to use 3 strands because I really like that tight, like close coverage. I don't like any fabric poking through. So pretty happy with that. I totally want to find some more. I want to go kit up another tiny ink circles pattern. So I'd like to know if any Chicago area stitchers are interested in going maybe in December. I was thinking over the holidays, it'd be fun to go over there and just poke around. So if anyone lives in this area or this area of the Midwest and you'd want to go together, let me know. And it'd be fun to go with a fellow stitcher. Last time I went just on my own. I went once over the summer on my own, and then once Steve came along with me too. And Yeah, it's a fun place. I enjoy it. It's a fun place. And my idea was that I wanted to take this to show them that, I had actually finished a project that I kitted up there. So anyway, that was Aventail by Ink Circles. The called for thread on this actually is Thread Gatherer Silken Colors, and the color is called Frio, I think. Let me look. Oh no, the called for is a Dinky Dyes. The color is called Frio, and they actually had it in stock at Inspired Needle, that thread, but it didn't look like this in the picture. This is actually really pretty. It's like an interesting combo of like a purple, teal, seafoam green, and like an orangey rust, but that's not what the actual thread looked like. So I just looked for something else and used that instead. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I don't know how to finish it yet. This is a perfect little pillow size, so maybe a pillow. I could also picture it being in like a kind of ornate, tiny frame. I'm trying to add more stuff to my walls, so that might be an option too. Okay, I do have one more finish to show you. I'm pretty excited about this one too. So this next one is Blackbird by Blackbird Designs. And let me show you what it looks like. Here it is. And I love it. I think it turned out great. It's so nice to have a monochromatic pattern. Okay, so this is 36 count. It's a linen. The color is Boardwalk, and it's by Color and Cotton. I love it. It's like a sandy tan kind of color. It's the other I had done. If you had watched my older videos, I had done American Harmony on the same one. It's just on another side of it. So I have enough now. Like I have a whole half left. So black looks great on this fabric. Let me show you again what the whole thing looks like. So it looks like this. And this one I had started last month in September during Jessie Marie's. She had done that long whip parade. So, and she had encouraged people to stitch while watching it. So this is when I started. And then this month, the way that I finished this is I did a thread a night on it. So I cut a length of, this is 2 strands of DMC 310 over 2 strands over 2. It's decent coverage. I can see some fabric pointing out. If you look at it within light and really close up, you can see a little bit of fabric poking out, but it's really okay. In the distance, it looks awesome, doesn't it? It's so pretty. What was I just saying? Oh, so I was doing a thread a night on it. So I would cut 2 strands, a length of thread, and I would just stitch as far as I could get on it. And then I did that every night. So I just kind of chipped away at it this month. And I finished it maybe about a week ago. I can't remember exactly when. I wanted to get it done for Halloween because we moved. If you've been keeping up with my videos, we moved, my husband and I, in May. And this will be our first Halloween in our new place. So we are totally going to decorate. The trick-or-treaters coming tomorrow. We got our candy. And we have an enclosed front porch. Like our front door leads to an enclosed porch area. So we're going to decorate that. So when we open the door for the kiddos, we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff set up. So do you know what this means? This means that I'm actually going to have a place to display Halloween-y stitching. Which means I can get all the Halloween patterns I want. I actually have a couple in new starts. I have at least one I can think. No, I have a couple that I can show you that I'm going to put out there eventually. So Blackbird, it's not ready to be fully finished yet, but I want to put it out tomorrow with our decoration. So I think I'm just going to pin it down to some board and just leave it leaning up on whatever other like pumpkins or whatever we have put out there. And then after this Halloween, I will think about how I want to finish it. The finishing on the actual pattern, they've done a pillow with it, and then they have this like ruched ribbon going all along the outside. I'd like to try. If you've seen my older videos, you know I've been hand sewing pillows. I can do it, but I've never tried adding a trim to it. So I'm going to think about that. I do have like a chenille trim. I don't remember what color I have, but I mean, it would look okay with even a contrasting color. That seems easier because I think you just kind of like put the needle into the chenille and then put it into the pillow and then into the chenille. You kind of just ladder it along, I think. So maybe I'll try a pillow, or I don't think I'll frame it. I might just leave it on a board maybe and not even finish it beyond that. So we'll see. I love it. I think it's so fun. And now I want to see what else I can do with DMC 310. Maybe on this same piece of fabric, I could try to find something. Oh, and now that we know what we're doing for Halloween, like with decorations, I have just been looking at all the Halloween patterns. Like, do you know, you probably know it because you're just like me and you probably spend a lot of time looking at patterns, but there's a really cute one by, I think it's by Lily Violette. I'll try to find it and put a picture up if I can. But it's like these little kids who are in costumes. They're like lined up to go trick or treating. And I've looked at that one for ages because I always thought that would be a really cute one to do skin color conversions on it, like make all the kids brown like me. Especially because I know it's like 3860 DMC 3863, I think, or 3864. Like those are skin tones that match me. Um, so I always thought that would be a fun one to do, but I never picked it up because I thought, what am I going to do? Like, we don't decorate for Halloween. I don't hang stuff up on the walls, inside our home. But now we have the perfect place to do Halloween decorations. So I might snag that one. There's also a really cute one. I'll put a picture up of this one too. Hold on, I wrote it down. I actually got this pattern. I just haven't done it yet. Bewitched Garden. It's on Etsy and it's by Vintage Tulip Design. Vintage Tulip Design. And it's really cute. It's got like these black flowers, like clumps of flowers, and then it spells the word bewitched. And the letters of bewitched are in like these little crests almost, and they're filled in with white. I was gonna maybe start it for Black Sampler November, but it has a little bit of other colors too. It's got like a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow in there too. So plus I have so many things. I haven't I started a lot this month. You're gonna see when we look at new starts. So I felt like I should try to focus on some whips first. So anyway, I'd be curious to know, what do you have favorite Halloween patterns you stitch on? Like, are there ones that you've finished and you just love? Because now I feel like I'm going to make a list. I'm going to take recommendations, and I'm in for it. I love it. I'm going to do some Halloween stitching now. I kind of wish like we didn't have our plans sorted out for decorations. Otherwise, I would have stitched this in A12 because we are going to try to put some things out that have lights on them. So I think that would be kind of cool, like twinkly. It's fine. It's DMC 310, but if anyone decides to stitch on this, maybe try it in an étoile. Next time I would do a monochromatic black pattern étoile. It would be pretty. So I was really trying to have finishes this month. I know they're two tiny ones because I was participating in marathon for MMIW G2S with everybody, all the big stitch, Michelle G and Rachel and Jessie, Mislaid Pages, Alicia, Resist Stitch. They're all doing this marathon for MMIW, and it's been awesome. It has been an incredible experience. One, I met my 100 hours that I was going to do anyway. I think I stitch a lot anyway because we had the 2 months, to do it. I raised $740. A big part of that is thanks to you. Thank you so much, because I know a lot of you fellow stitchers out there donated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to share it once more to my whatever, they're changing their name. I'm barely on Facebook anyway. I only ask for money for these craftivism projects on there. So I'm going to put one more post on there because I have a couple of my teacher friends who have shared my post, and I've gotten donations from a whole bunch of people who I don't even know, who just care about, Indigenous cultures and MMIW. So that has been awesome. So $740. Thank you. And beyond the fundraising is great because it goes to the Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women. It's a really important organization. I'm glad I know about them now. But also, I've kind of been trying to read a lot about Indigenous history here in the Americas, and then also just read resources, listen to things. Sarah, my stitchy buddy Sarah, who's Modcross on Etsy, recommended the This Land podcast, that has been transformative for me. It's been life-changing. Like, I have such a different perspective and understanding of Native life here. You have to listen. So in the description box below, I'm creating a section. There will be a section just for Indigenous history or Indigenous cultural resources, just stuff I've been reading or listening to. If you're interested and you want to learn more, you can check it out down there. I'm wearing you won't be able to see it, Every Child Matters shirt. Can you see it? Every Child Matters. I got myself a shirt for orange. I was reading about Orange Shirt Day, which is the day of truth and reconciliation in Canada. I sure wish we had one here in the US. It's basically a day where the entire country acknowledges the history of the residential schools and the trauma that continues, that persists from that. This shirt was designed by, I want to tell you, Morgan Asoyas, who's a Simshan person from Simshan community. And I got this at Native Northwest, which is like a vendor of stuff by Native artists. So that's where I got mine. And all the proceeds go to residential schools relief kind of counseling services and all that. So that was kind of cool. I'm going to share a few things. I hope it's okay that I share some of the resources I picked up from these past couple of months, and I want to keep reading too. So I learned that I live on the lands. I'm relying on my notes. I don't remember it offhand. I live on the unceded homelands and ancestral lands of the Council of the Three Fires. So that's Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi are the people whose ancestral lands I live on. And I found that's called a land acknowledgement statement. And I found mine actually through the Art Institute of Chicago because I didn't know how to phrase like where I lived. The Art Institute of Chicago here, they worked with an agency called the American Indian Center of Chicago, and they wrote that statement, a land acknowledgement statement. So if any of you live in a big urban area, you might turn to your cultural institutions because I think a lot of it here in Chicago, a lot of them are having these land acknowledgement statements, and that's where I got some of my information too. The interesting thing, though, is that it is the land of the Council of the Three Fires. I've heard a lot about Potawatomi. I knew Potawatomi lived in this area, but I think the truth is there were a lot of other peoples who lived here too, like Miami and Ho-Chunk and Menominee, because it was a big trade area that was like a crossroads. So lots of peoples lived here. And I also learned about the American Indian Center of Chicago, which opened in 1953. And it was a result of the relocation policy. A lot of you are going to know about that. This is new information for me, but I bet even Steve knows more about this because he's a history guy. But there was a relocation policy in 1953, which in other words is called the termination policy. It was the government's way. Basically, the government said, we are no longer going to protect native land. It's not under protected status, and we are no longer going to provide any financial support or anything. We are cutting you off. And basically, you don't live here anymore. You need to go find somewhere else to live. So a lot of Native peoples were basically given bus tickets or train tickets and said, go to urban areas and you will find opportunity there. So a lot of people came to Chicago at that time. Chicago was one of the destinations for relocation or / termination. And they were met with, poverty, lack of opportunity, racism, lack of cultural community because they were displaced from their cultural community. So in Chicago, there were a group of elders that met together and formed the American Indian Center of Chicago to provide support. And that agency still exists today. So they're providing a lot of support to people who want to understand and include and acknowledge what's happened. So that's pretty cool that we have that. So if you live in a big urban area, you might have a resource like that too. They're doing an awesome thing, like on the Chicago River, the like northwest branch of it, they have a project planned. So the peoples who lived here were mound builders. And so they're building like mounds as a tribute along the Chicago River to acknowledge the presence of Indigenous peoples. Amazing. They're doing some cool stuff. The best thing, well, the This Land podcast was the best thing that I found from that I was, thank you, Sarah, that I was given to learn about. But the other cool thing, I'm linking a video below. It's the thing that I've thought about every single day since I've seen this video. So it's about Marie Wilcox. She was the last living speaker of the hang on a second. Wukchumni. It's the Wukchumni people. They are situated in like valleys in California. And at the time of colonization, there were 50,000 members of that group, cultural group, the Wuk-chumni people, and today there are like 200. But Marie Wilcox was the last living speaker of their language. And so in the last 20 years of her, she's passed away. She was in her 80s when she passed away recently. And she spent the last 20 years of her life creating a dictionary, like documenting their language. And then everybody in their community is taking classes basically to try to revive their language. And it's surviving. It's a surviving language now, thanks to her efforts. So there's a very cute interview and video with her. She seems like the most charming person. And there are scenes where you can see her, she's like cooking a meal with her grandson and they're speaking their language. And I think it's amazing. It's amazing. And there's a kind of a bittersweet moment in that video too, because she's asked, what does it feel like to be the last person to be able to do this, to speak your language? And she said, it's so strange. I can't even describe it. It's an odd feeling that today in like the 2000s, you know, I'm this person and I'm the last of my line of people to do this. It's kind of, it's heartbreaking a little bit, but she's leaving it. She has left a legacy because now her community has all these resources to take up that language. There's another video with Marie Wilcox, which I'm also linking below. Super fascinating for us crafters because that community has a history of weaving. They live in an area where there are a lot of tall reeds and grasses. So they would make like baskets and materials for their home. And so that was something Marie Wilcox and her daughter were trying to teach their community, like reviving those skills. So this video is super fascinating. Like they go off to the sides of highways and they say things like, oh yeah, my great grandparents used to take us here and they would show us how to pick these reeds and how, you know, what was the perfect color and size. So they just walk you through the craft side of it. It's super fascinating. So anyway, there is so much for us to learn, and I'm linking stuff below. So if you find any of this interesting, go check it out and then tell me what you think of it, because I'd like to know too. And if you have resources, I am learning so much, so let me know. Oh, like, did I bring it? I had a book I was going to show you. Oh, here it is. My teacher friend, I have a teacher friend who's a social studies teacher who recommended this book to me, 500 Years of Indigenous Resistance. And it's got like stories of Indigenous history. And this one covers all the Americas. So there's like a chapter on the Incas, all sorts of stuff. So I am learning and I'm enjoying learning. And if you enjoy learning too, hopefully some of those resources will help. Okay. Thank you for listening to that. I know you're here for stitching, and sometimes I can just like hear the subscribe button being unclicked as I talk about this stuff, because I know it's not interesting for everybody. But that's okay. For those of you who get it, thanks for sticking around and listening to it. Okay. We're 30 minutes in and I've barely showed you anything. So let's get this thing going. I have some whips to show you. My first one is this one that I had shown you last month too. So this doesn't have a name. I'm just calling it Squirrels. I'll put a picture up of the pattern. But this is one that was sent to me by Kaede Cross Stitch on Instagram, and I'll link their Instagram below so you can check it out. They have a blog and they have some patterns that are free that are available. And I had seen this one with the squirrels. It's got like flowers and squirrels down below, flowers up here, squirrels below. And I had seen it on their Instagram page and said, oh, this is so beautiful. Where did you get this? And they said, oh, I made it. And then a couple weeks later, they had sent it to me, which I thought was so sweet. So I've been trying to work on it. It's really hard. It's really hard to stitch because it's all negative stitching. So see how you're basically stitching the outlines, like you're stitching around the motifs. So you can kind of see right here, you can see a squirrel taking form. See his head down there? Right here. So there are two squirrels facing each other down there. Now, I'm struggling with this a little bit because I think I have not made a good choice with my colors. I love all the materials I'm using, but so these are both color and cotton threads. They came in a club of the month, monthly club, thread club. This is iced blueberry, which is gorgeous. It's like are you seeing the variegation? It's like a dark sort of bluish purple and then a bright blue, variegated. And then this is called Hayride. It's just a cream colored one. It's got a little variegation too. I love both the threads. I hope I have enough because I only got a skein of each, you know, in the thread club. And now I'm kind of panicking that I won't have enough. This is an extra design fabric. It's 36 count. It's squirrel. So I thought it'd be perfect for this. Plus it's the right size because basically this isn't the bottom, but the bottom is like right below it. It's gonna come up. I think I have made the mistake in choosing all the fabric and the threads are all sort of light colored. So the effect of the negative stitching, I don't feel like it's the best it could be. Like if I had chosen a dark fabric with these colors, I think you'd see it better. Or if I had chosen dark colors on this fabric, you would have seen it better. But they're all light, so it's just all kind of washed out. So I'm actually contemplating going ahead and filling in the actual motifs with like a gray, a dark gray, you know, like $37.99 DMC or something like that, or some kind of charcoal gray color. So I'm just not sure yet. I'm going to have to play around with it and see. That would actually make the stitching on it much easier because I'd go ahead and stitch the motifs and then just stitch everything around it. That would speed up my stitching time on it. I'd really like to finish it because I want to send a picture of it to Kaede Cross Stitch to show them that I am working on it because I don't want them to think that they just sent me a pattern and then I'm just sitting on it, you know. I'm using 2 strands over 2 and the coverage is good. Good coverage on this. I'm pretty happy. I've used Extru fabrics before and they're pretty nice to stitch on and the colors are really pretty too. I'm going to hold it. Let me see. I'm just out of curiosity. I want to see what it looks like when I hold it back. About the same. It doesn't look any different really. Okay, so that's by Kaede Cross Stitch. Here, I have a card on it. I try to put my info on cards for all my projects this time around in case you want to screenshot it and remember any of the info for yourself. Color and Cotton, Hayride and Iced Blueberry, Extra Designs. The color is called Squirrel. And there's Kaede Cross Stitch, but I'll put their Instagram name below as well, so you don't have to type it in. Okay, next whip is this one. It's Autumn Quaker Seasons, and it's by ByGone Stitches. I love this one a lot. And I changed, I don't even know what the called for colors are, but I changed them. Let me show you. So I'm shamefully close to finishing this. Like if I hadn't started the million things I started this month, I should have just sat down and finished this. I could totally finish it next month. Here's what it looks like. So I am using Threadworks. I picked out a few colors that just kind of seemed fall autumn to me. Let me hold it up closer so you can see. Do I have all the colors written down? Let me check my card really quick. No, I don't. I'm sorry. It's Threadworks. If you're looking for the colors on these, let me know. I can put them in a comment below. I'm using 2 strands over 2. The fabric is Extra Designs. It's a 36 count. It's Witch's Brew. Fantastic fabric. I love it. It's so, so pretty. It's purple with like these black. You can kind of tell Extra Designs because there's a lot of like those splatters. See those black splatters? They almost look like ink splatters. I feel like that's on a lot of their fabrics. So I'm only using that kind of peachy orange color in the middle, that terracotta, it's sort of terracotta. I'm only using that for the word autumn. And then I'm using teal and like that dark brown orange on some of the medium to larger size motifs. And then I'm using this one that has like the gray and mustard yellow and brown. I'm using that on some of the larger motifs. That's kind of the pattern I'm, oh, and then the animals are in like that grayish red. Like there's an owl. Let me get to it. There's an owl right there, that rabbit, the cat, and then there's some like leaves or something over there. So that's kind of what I've been doing with it. I really love it. It's so pretty. And this is basically, I've reached the 2 borders. Like this right here is as far as it's going to get on this side. That's the end. And this right here, that's as far as it's going to get on this side. So really I'm down to, I have a few animal motifs that I'm missing in these gaps. And then I have this corner. There's a large motif right here, which I will do probably in like this color again. It'll go here. I'm really close to finishing it. Really, really, really close to finishing it. So I'm going to try next month. I'm going to try to finish this. And this will go framed. I love it too much. I'm going to frame it and put it up in our house. So that again was Autumn Quaker Seasons by ByGone Stitches. Let me hold up the card again in case you want to see it. That pattern, I don't know if I probably, to be honest, I like Quakers, so I probably would have found it eventually, but this pattern actually came in a grab bag that I got from Inspired Needle, my local needle workshop. You can do, I'll try to find the direct link to their grab bags, but every once in a while, they'll put in their online shop that you can purchase a grab bag and it'll be themed. So the one I got was Quakers. Right now, they're probably doing seasonal. So it might be like snowmen or snowflakes, or sometimes they do houses, or they pick a motif and you order the grab bag. It's $25 US, but they pick out like 6 or 7 patterns with those motifs and they send them to you, or I'm sure they could do them in the shop if you go visit at the shop. So I got a whole bunch of patterns, all different Quakers. I got teeny ones, I got enormous ones. This was more of like a small to mid-range one. And this pattern alone, this ByGone Seasons, this alone, like the price tag on this was $12.50. So for like half the price of the grab bag, I got one pattern and then I got even more. So it was a fantastic deal. And it was just a fun surprise because you don't know what they're going to pick out for you. They go around the store and pick up stuff. So that was fun. I would do that again. I just haven't been, the motifs that they've had up, I haven't been like super drawn towards them, but I would definitely, if you keep checking, they change out what the motif is that the grab bag's based on. So you could check it out and order one that fits for you. And that might even be something to ask like your own local needle workshop if they would be willing to do something like that. I think it's a great idea. I got, I'm not going to remember it. I got a pattern. I think it's called like Teeny Tweeny. It's just like a super teeny Quaker, and it's a 2-parter. So now I have to get the second part, but that's an old whip, and that'd be fun to stitch on. Yeah, I just got some cute patterns after that one. Okay, one more whip to show you. I rewrote my entire whips list because of my anniversary. I just wanted to get a handle. I started a new notebook and I started it with my entire, because I have a lot of whips. And so I've been looking through whips. So I pulled out a couple to stitch on, and also because I like seasonal stitching. So I pulled out my Autumn Quakers and I restarted this one. It was on a blue fabric. I had been putting on it on blue fabric, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. So I don't have the called for fabric, but I did choose Vintage Country Mocha. And so I pulled that out. So here it is. I just have a teeny tiny start to it, a restart to it. Let me see if I can get a better, there you go. That's a better view. So this motif is this corner up here. It's this angled flower that's coming in here. I love it. And it took a while for me to like it, because when you first start, like I started up here, these first few parts of it are all brown. And I was getting a little bit discouraged because when I look at it, so many people have finished this project, right? It's Rosewood Manor. It's Autumn Quakers by Rosewood Manor. And so many people have finished it. And when I look at everybody's finished ones, they look really bright. To me, they seem like bright autumn colors. But when I was starting to stitch on this, I'm like, these are so dull. Or even when you look at I'm using the called for threads, it's Valdani cotton threads, the 3-stranded thread, which let me tell you something about that too. The colors just don't look bright. So I was kind of getting discouraged. I'm like, what? Mine looks so different. But actually, it's the 2 colors that make the difference are this purple and this red, and even this like bright orange here. Once you start adding more of the colors, and I get it now. I see how it's going to happen. It will be bright and beautiful. I just need to give it a chance. So I am using a 20 count on this, and I'm using 2 strands of, let me see if I can, there we go. I'm using 2 strands of the Valdani. So it's Valdani thread. It comes on a roll. I think you can get it in a 6-strand skein too. And it, my struggle, I tested it out. Okay, let me see. So I tested it out on a corner of this fabric. It's probably too small and you won't be able to see it, but I'll show you. I tested it out with one strand, and then I tested it out with two strands. The one strand barely had any coverage. It just had so much fabric showing through. So I know it's weird on a 20 count. I think most people stitch one strand on a 20 count. I'm using two. I even tried it with three. Three looked too bunched up and gathered, so two looked perfect. So that's what I'm going with. And I think the coverage is good. It's exactly what I want it to be. But now my issue is, so it comes in a 3-stranded floss, right? So you cut a snip of it. I have to pull out one of the strands because I want to use two. Now I have that strand, that loose strand, that one strand that's left over, and these threads are variegated. So then I was thinking, okay, well, I could try to double that one strand up on itself and make it a 2-strand and stitch with it, but then you're going to have two different colors, so it'll look kind of muddied. It kind of feels like I'm wasting a strand, or like I have to maybe keep all those single strands separate and like put them on a floss drop or something, and then wait until I'm stitching on something where I only need one strand, like maybe I could do a back stitch, like a black work pattern or something with that. But it's just that it's not annoying, but it's just like, oh, come on. Like, what am I going to do? Because these threads are a little bit on the pricey side, and it just feels like I'm not getting the best use out of them. Anybody have any suggestions? The problem is I think most people stitch this on like a 32 count or 28 count, and so they're using the whole 3 strands. I think most people are using the whole 3 strands, but I'm making mine smaller on the 20 count, so it just doesn't make sense to use all 3 strands. So that's the only thing that's kind of a little bit of a bummer with those threads. Other than that, they're pretty. The variegation's really nice on them too. Okay. That's my whips. That's all my whips. Because everything, I have a million new starts to show. I don't know what my problem, no, I know exactly what my problem is, because I'm going to get into this with plans, but I'm going to try to do no new starts for the rest of the year, for November, December. So I think in my mind, I was like, quick, start up as much as you can now, because you're going to cut yourself off in November and December. So now I have so many things I've started. Okay. First thing is the Autumn Lane Witchery Sal, which I'm saling with Matt, NBC Stitcher, who has picked a stunningly beautiful, I want to say it's a Bee Stitch Me fabric. It's like an opalescent. It's a beautiful blue, and he's doing the Bewitched pattern. It looks so good. I am doing the collectors, and I'm doing mine on Ada. I chose a green fabric. Isn't that kind of cool? It's creepy. That pattern looks real creepy, but I love those trees. I like those like kind of creepy vines on the bottom. I like the pops of color with the lanterns. It's going to look cool. There's some like interesting back stitching on the like the cap and the clothing. It's going to look good. It is looking good. Let me show you. Okay. Here's what I've got so far. I started page 1. Actually, let me make it a little smaller and see if I can hold it up closer to you. I've started on page 1. It's a 4-page pattern. And I started on the top left. There we go. You can get a better view there. So you're seeing, this is the center collector here. There's a collector that's forming off to the side here. So we're looking at here, the center collector. I've started their face here, their hat and face, and then I'm working on this figure right here, and then these trees that are coming down here. It looks awesome. I love it. I love how it's working up. And it's an 18 count Ada, so it's working up super fast. It is a very relaxing stitch because there's like big blocks, so it's a lot of stitching, but it's not stressful stitching. It's calm stitching. I have a paper pattern, so I didn't try to put it on Pattern Keeper. I know that there's been updates to Pattern Keeper, and I'm hearing that it's easier now to photograph paper patterns and upload them to Pattern Keeper. I just didn't try it. I made a working copy, and then I'm highlighting as I'm going along. It's actually really easy to do. I kind of like doing that. So it's working. So you can see a little bit of the trees up here. This tree's coming down here. There's some trees going here. So this right here is the edge. So this is as far off to the side as it's going to go. I basically worked the diagonal of page 1. So page 1, the end of page 1 on this side is here. And then this is the corner of page 1 here. So I just followed the tree lines and went along, and it's going great. I love it. The fabric is Pistachio by Mystic fabrics. No, let me just check. No, it's Fiber on a Whim. Sorry, here's my card. It's Fiber on a Whim. The color is pistachio. It's an 18 count. I'm using, the pattern is 140 by 196, and I'm using the called for DMC threads on it. I love it. If you follow, people have been kitting this up and starting it. So check out the hashtag Autumn Lane Witchery Sal. I'll link it below in case you forget. There's some really cool, like, you're going to see the best assortment of fabrics when you look at this. People are picking out the coolest fabrics because there's so many witchy potion-y patterns. And they all have different color schemes to them. So colorways. So you're just seeing a lot of really pretty fabrics on there. So check that out. Even if you're not stitching on it, it's a great way to just look at fabric and color combos if you check out the hashtag. I got to check in with Matt. It's been ages. I saw Matt's video, his recent video, and his project is looking really good. He picked he has a good way of picking those Be Stitch Me fabrics because there's so many great colors. I actually ordered my first Be Stitch Me's for a couple of restarts I'm doing. So it takes a long time for them to come. So I'm waiting for them. Anyway, he picks really good fabrics for his stitching. So definitely you're probably already checking him out, so I don't need to recommend to go see his videos, but yeah, love it. I'm going to keep stitching on this. I wonder if I can get a page finish this month. I could try in November. I could try to get a page finish on that. Okay. The next new start is, I love this so much. I love all my projects so much. It's hard to choose. Okay, I'm going to hold up the pattern first. I'm going to hold up the fabric first. This fabric was a gift from Denise, Black Ribbon Stitch Studio, a very generous gift. It's a fabric from Pole Stitches, and it's called Daybreak, like my channel. And so she very sweetly sent this to me, and it totally 100% reminds me of, like, especially now in the autumn, it's getting darker. So like when I'm driving to work, I'm seeing the sunrise, and we totally see all these different shades. And so the colors that are missing, of course, are what I want to stitch on there. It's like all the pinks and purples of a sunrise. And I've been looking and looking and looking for patterns, sun or like sunrise related patterns that I could put on this. And I was poking around on Cross Stitching Supplies. It's Lindsay's shop. She's from Indiana. And I get a lot of DMC from that shop because they have free shipping after 25 bucks, if you buy 25 bucks worth of stuff. And I also poke around just at my favorite designers on there to see if there's any patterns that are new, or is there anything I missed out on. And so I was looking at Rosewood Manor, and I saw this sunset. And I thought I had seen all of Rosewood Manor's patterns like on 1, 2, 3 Stitch, but I had never seen this one. And I thought right away, like, ooh, look at that sun there. That sun, those colors, like that's what I want on this fabric from Denise. So I got the pattern, and she only had one left in stock. So I got that one. You know how like with vocabulary, sometimes you like have never heard a word, and then you hear someone use it, and then all of a sudden you hear it all over the place. That was like this with this pattern. I got this pattern. I had never seen it before. And then I kept hearing about it everywhere. Like Sunshine Stitchers, they mentioned it because Gary was talking about Galleria, and how one of his favorite things at Galleria is to see all of the stitched models from Rosewood Manor, because they're just so unbelievably beautiful in person. And I do believe that, actually, that it's probably an extraordinary thing to see all the Rosewood Manors stitched together. I bet this would be beautiful to see in person. I got this pattern, and the called for threads are from a brand that I don't use. So I did my own conversions, and I converted to Classic Colorworks. And I won't say it was cumbersome, but it takes effort, but it's totally worth doing. So what I did was I took each of the called for color. I had 2 Google windows up side by side. And in one, I would Google the called for color of something from the list of the called for threads. I'd look at kind of what color it looked like. And then let's say it was like a pink, a shade of pink. Then in the second window, I would Google Classic Colorworks pinks, and I would look at all the different pinks that show up in Google Images, and I'd find one in a photo that looked similar, and then I'd look at, okay, what color is that? And I'd make a note of that. So I was only doing this through looking at this picture and also looking at the pictures available online. And I more or less was able to find colors I was happy with. Should I just show you what I've stitched up so far? It's not much, but it's beautiful. So that's how it's turning out. And I love it. I think it's perfect. These are totally the shades that I see when I'm looking at the sunrise coming into school. I think it's going to be stunning. I don't think I can fit the entire project on here, but that's okay because the important parts are going to be, and also this is sunset, but to me it speaks sunrise. I think it's fine. I'm definitely going to stitch this sun, and then I want to see these half suns. That's like the sun rising. So I want to get those, which means I want to get this row, and then I want to get this row, and then I want to get this row. I'm not crazy about the words, so I would change that too. I just carry this motif over, maybe something like that. So I will just stitch part of it. I won't stitch the whole thing, but I think it's looking awesome. It totally captures the sunrise for me. I love it. So thank you again, Denise. This has been like such a, when you think of Denise, you think of joy, right? This totally brings me joy. She brings joy everywhere she goes. So I love that. I'm going to be stitching on that more. So this fabric is a 32 count even weave, which thanks a lot, Denise. Now I have another type of fabric I want to stitch on because it's very pleasant. It's even weave is way more pleasant to stitch on 2/2 than linen is because it is truly even. It's very easy to find where your needle needs to go. Whereas, linen is kind of flimsy. So I find myself kind of having to pay extra attention to figure out where my needle goes. So 32 count even weave, you're on my list. I'll have to try some more 2/2 projects. Great coverage, right? This is just 2 strands over 2 threads. Looks great. I love it. So that again is, the pattern is technically called sunset. There is a sunrise as well, and Lindsay didn't have it at Cross Stitching Supplies, but I also have Googled it, and I wasn't as crazy about it as I was with this. The colors on this were more of what I was looking for, so that's what I'm going for. Here's my card on it. Classic Colorworks conversion. I converted it from the called for. The fabric is from Pole Stitches. It's 197 by 318, but like I said, I'm going to shorten it. I'm going to do less. And it's by Rosewood Manor. And let me know if you want to know the colors. I don't have them written out on here, but I can share my color conversion for that if you're interested. Oh, my tummy's growling. Hang on. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee if that's okay. Thanks for sticking around. I get chatty on here and I'm not always showing stitching, so I really appreciate when you stick around. Okay, moving right along with new starts. Okay, speaking of getting chatty. So the next project, I'm actually not going to show you the stitched part of it, but I will show you the fabric. Oh, darn, I forgot to bring a thread. So I can't show you the thread either, but I'll tell you about it. Okay, there's a story to this. So this is the No More sampler. Everybody, you all know it, and a lot of you have started it, and I recommended it in my last video. It's got the like F everything, right? F racism, F transphobia, F sexism, F what else is on there? Homophobia, like all this, all the patriarchy and all this. It makes you feel empowered, right? Well, let me tell you what fabric this is before I forget. This is a beautiful fabric by K Lux Fabrics on Etsy, and it's an 18 count Aida. The color is called Raspberry. Some nice modeling, right? For an 18 count Aida. I love it. And I'm stitching on it with this was going to be my black sampler November piece, and I was stitching on it with a kind of charcoal black colored thread from Owl Forest. That's called black gray hair, I think. Maybe I'll try to get a picture of it and put it in so you can see. It looked really good. I was really enjoying stitching on this project. It gave me great joy. It was stitching up fast. The color combos were perfect. And then it was brought to my attention that the designer of this pattern it says F transphobia, right? So they clearly support trans community, but not so much because they also sell Harry Potter patterns. And everyone knows that the creator of Harry Potter has been like overtly anti-trans. So when that was brought to my attention, I felt terrible because I'm not in I should have checked, right? When we buy new patterns now, if we're being better allies, we have to be a little bit more conscious of what we're buying and what designers support and all that stuff, or at least I try to be. I'm trying to be. So I felt really bad that I hadn't done my research beforehand, and I decided to contact the designer. And if you know me, you know I do that. And I always come in very respectful because the truth is I do respect designers. I think it's like a labor of the heart, and it's hard work designing. And just the idea that this pattern exists made me think, this designer must be thinking about these things. So I always write a message that's very like gushingly appreciative of the patterns and their work. And on this one, I just wanted to know, where do you stand? Do you have an idea of where you stand on this, or are you aware of the issues that are going on? Because you make such a clear statement that you're anti-transphobic, but then you also sell these patterns that more and more people are thinking they need to let go of. And the designer sent a very long message, very thought out. My first reaction was, oh, I'm glad, because it seems like I can continue the conversation with this person, even though they had more or less said that they weren't ready to remove their Harry Potter patterns. Well, I didn't know how to respond, so I reached out to the fantastic Alicia, who is Resist Stitch. Thank you, Alicia. Alicia served as a really great sounding board because I didn't know how to continue the conversation with the designer. And I wanted to put some ideas out there to Alicia and get some feedback. And Alicia basically gave me some great advice and said, you know what? You have to know what you're saying before you say it. So just read up on it, understand the different perspectives on the issue so that you know what you want to say and you know what points you want to make. And so I've been reading a lot about this whole, basically I Googled, is it okay to like Harry Potter, or is it not okay to like Harry Potter? And I wanted to just read everything out there. And in the meantime, while I was doing all this research, other stitchers reached out to this designer as well about the same issue. And my support or lack of support of vendors always comes down to the customer service. If you've seen me before, I've mentioned that before. Like if a vendor or designer doesn't respond at all, that's not good because we buy from these people. Or if they respond but it's insincere or lacks courtesy, or these things influence you as a person because you're personally reaching out to this person, and then now you're wondering, should I be supporting this person or not? Anyway, the designer made a move that I know now they acknowledge is not a good move. They basically took snapshots of the conversations from some of these other designers, including Alicia at Resist Stitch, to put them out on Instagram with the aim of trying to humiliate these people and embarrass them and call them out for trying to have this conversation. It took the whole thing to an ugly place. And now when I pull up the pattern, I don't feel happy to stitch on it. I don't know if you understand that feeling. It's like I felt incredible joy to start this pattern, and now I associate all this negativity with it because the designer took it in a direction that was bringing in shame, and I didn't like the direction it took. I think they understand it. That post is still up there. If you know the designer I'm talking about, you can go look at all this. So for right now, this pattern is in a timeout. I'm really thinking, I want to come back to it, but I don't want the association to be with the designer. I'm going to have to do something to make it associate more with the trans community and not with that designer if I do it. So I'm thinking of what I can do. First thing I'm going to do is, I should have done it before today. I wanted to have it done before I talk to you about this. The amount of money that I paid the designer for this pattern, it's in my means to donate that same amount of money to Brave Space Alliance, which is the community the agency that I support that gives support to trans people in the Chicago area. And so that's one thing. I'm going to offset, that money I feel like shouldn't have gone to this vendor because of all this. I'm going to now donate that amount to Brave Space Alliance. If I decide to go back and stitch on it, which I think I would like to do, I'm going to have to make it overtly pro-trans. So maybe I will find a quote to stitch around it, or I will backstitch the names of trans activists into it, or I'll make it another craftivism fundraiser. Maybe I'll save it for Pride next year and don't raise money again for Brave Space Alliance. But I want to do something to offset like that negativity and those attitudes. So I can't look at it right now. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel good when I look at it right now, and I have to do a little bit more thinking about how I want to handle it. So I'll show you my card with all the info, but I won't put the design. I'm not mentioning the people who I don't support, so I'm not mentioning their names. But that's the name of the pattern. You can Google it. It's on Etsy. Kalux Fabrics, Raspberry is the fabric, 18 count Ada. And then I'll put, I think by now I would have put up a picture of the threads. I feel really terrible because I recommended this pattern to you without doing my research in the last video. So I apologize for that. And I don't know. I think each of us is in a different place with learning about this stuff. So you have to decide what you want to do, how you're going to handle it, and how you feel about it. You can go look at the posts that are on the designer's Instagram page and see what you think. There were a lot of stitchers who weighed in and gave really interesting arguments and powerful arguments supporting Alicia and everybody else. And so I think it was a good conversation. I think the designer came around to it. It goes back to the bigger question I've raised before, like how do you have difficult conversations with people when they're not in the same place learning about things as you are, or they're not as willing, or they're not willing to let go. You know what I mean? We're all in different places with learning about this stuff. So how do you make change happen, and how do you have these deeper conversations when the other person's not ready? I think you still have them. They're just not going to go the way you want them to go. They're going to be rough around the edges. So that's where that stands. So thank you for listening to, again, I've been chatting about something that I can just hear the people unsubscribing, but that's okay. For those of you who are out there and listening, I appreciate you listening to it. During my research on these perspectives, I read an editorial from Marie Claire magazine, and I want to read you the quote that I read from it. This is something that really hit it home for me when I read this quote. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the author. But I'll link this article below in my notes below. Listen to this quote. The question is, this comes from an editorial that's basically called something like "Why We Need to Let Go of Harry Potter." And the quote says, "My childhood nostalgia can't be more important than a trans person's trauma or physical safety." That really hit it home for me, that thought. So it gave me something to think about. I'm going to link that article below. And if you have anything interesting, like with these perspectives that you've read that you're willing to share, please do, because I'm learning more and more about this. I'm getting my head around it. I know trans people. I have students who are trans and friends who are trans. So I feel like I want to get a handle on this, try to understand it. So anything you can share, I would love to read or hear it or see it. Okay, let's go to a happier place. So I, as part of the marathon for MMIWG2S, all of the big stitchers who organized it, they have been putting on these Zooms, these fundraiser Zooms, but they also it kind of feels like kids playing soccer where like everybody gets a trophy. They set it up where like everybody wins something. Everybody who comes to these Zooms wins something. So I did one of those Zooms earlier this month, and I won a fantastic pattern by a Peruvian flair. Everybody, you all know Ana Aguayo, who we love her, right? We love Ana. And the pattern that I won is called I Apayek, which I think is Temple of the Moon. Maybe Anna, if you ever see this, you'll correct me, or I'll correct myself and put it correctly in the notes. And it is beautiful. I will put a picture up so you can see the finished one, but let me show you what mine looks like. It's so good. I just love it so much. Look at that. So this is, oh no, you know what? I better not give you any of the cultural information on this because I can't remember what culture this represents, if it's Incan or pre-Incan. I don't remember, but I will find out and I'll let you know in a future video. So I won this pattern, and then later that day, or maybe the next day, so Anna was actually there at during the Zoom, and her patterns were being given away, and she actually sent me the next day her brand new pattern. Anna, you give away too much stuff. She sent me her new pattern, which is called Sican Bird, which I'll try to put up here too. And beautiful. It's got beautiful colors. And that one's really cool because it's based on a textile that is from the Sican people, which is a group of indigenous people in what is now Peru, but they were there prior to the Incans. So we're going way back now. And that textile is housed here in Chicago at the Art Institute of Chicago. So I looked it up, and at the Art Institute, you can look up pieces, like their artifacts, and it'll show you if they're on display or not. So that piece is not on display. I thought it'd be really cool to finish. Well, I got to start it first. Start and finish Sican Bird, and then actually like take it to the museum and take a picture of it with it, but it's not on display, so I can't do that. But anyway, super enjoying this one. And Anna does a really spectacular thing. She provides multiple colorways on her pattern. So this pattern is available in just a 3-color pattern, red, black, and yellow, I want to say. And she also provides a multicolor one, which is the one I'm doing. So there's a kind of diamond border that's going to go all around, and it's going to be all these different colors. I love it. This fabric is Ancient Stones by Primitive Hair. And so it looks like, it's supposed to look like stone, like rock. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting to put this on. This would actually be really great for, what would look good on this fabric? Probably like a black project, monochromatic black project would look good on this, but these colors look good too. So, should I do this now? I think I will. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to interrupt my new starts right now. Let me show you the card. I'm using, it's 99 by 100 stitches, really nice, doable size. DMC threads. It's a 30 count fabric, so I'm using 3/2, 3 strands over 2. And I'm using DMC except for one, the purple color in the border. I'm using this, I'm trying my very first bamboo floss by Rainbow Gallery. And it says on here to use 4 strands for 13 count. I'm using 3 strands. I'm using 3 strands of it, just like with the DMC. Okay, so I am actually going to interrupt the rest of my new starts right here to do the first of my giveaways, because I am giving away some Peruvian flare patterns right now. So I'm going to put pictures of them up. I'm going to give you the keywords. Here we go. The first one, I have 3 copies I'm giving away of Sican Bird. I'll put the picture up here. The keyword for that is going to be bird. For any of these items, if you want to enter the giveaways, please don't mention giveaways or anything related to giveaways in the comments. And then I also have a Google form below to get your contact info. So please fill that out. Please also be a subscriber. And then these are all digital patterns. So I will contact you and mail them to you. They will all come with I'm pretty sure they all come with the multiple colorways. So you'll probably receive like 2 files because it'll have 2 color combos. Okay. So first one is Sican Bird. Keyword is bird. I'm giving away 3. You have really good chances to get that one. Second one is Ayapayak, Temple of the Moon. I'm giving away 3 of those. Keyword is moon for that one. And then the third one is the Cat's Reflection Sampler. Keyword is cat, single word cat. And I'm also giving away 3 of those. So bird, moon, and cat. You can enter any or all of them. I might try if I don't know if a lot of people don't watch my videos, but so your chances are very good. But I'm going to maybe try to give, like if you've won one, if you come up in the drawing once, I'll try to give the others to somebody else if your name gets drawn again. Please fill out the form. Please be a subscriber. I have one more giveaway that I'm doing, but that's related to plans. So that will be coming up later. So I'm giving away 9 of those patterns. Funny story. So I contacted Anna because I wanted to buy all these patterns. I wanted to buy multiple copies. Even though it's all the same digital file, I wanted to make sure the designer got paid multiple times for all these instances that I'm giving away. And as I was writing the message to Anna, in my head, I told myself, Anna's going to tell me she wants to just give these away because she's so generous. Anna's so generous, and her patterns are very affordable too. And sure enough, like, Anna replied right away, and she's like, "Oh, Nitya, this is fantastic. Of course, I would love for you to give away my patterns, but why don't you just let me donate them?" I said, "No, Anna, I wanna, like, support you as a designer, so let me pay for these." And she said, "Well, let's do part and part," or maybe I said, "Let's do part and part." So I think I bought the copies of Temple of the Moon and Bird, and I think she donated the copies of, Cat's Reflection Sampler. But it's just so funny. Like, she's so talented. Like, it's a great pattern, right? And all her patterns come in under like $4 each or something like that. That's why I'm giving away so many. So I hope you win one. I hope you like it, and I hope you stitch on it. That Cat's Reflection, you all are saying it at me right now. There's a hashtag for it, that Michelle G started over the summer. Is it the Peruvian Cats Sal? I think that's what it is. Peruvian Cats Sal. Anyway, I will find it and put it below. And there are beautiful color combos that people are doing for that pattern. Another just great way to see how people put thread and floss together, you know? It's really creative ways to do that. Okay. Moving back to new starts. I'm going to show you a crochet project real quick. I don't show a lot of crochet because I don't do as much as I do stitching. And also because I know most of you are here for stitching, but I did start a crochet project, so I want to show it real quick. I have 2 colleagues at work who are having babies in March. They're both due in March. So I'm making them both baby blankets for their presents. And so I started this one. You'll see part of it. It looks like this. It's alternating bands of neutral colors. So like the variegated color is wider. The band for the variegated color is wider than the band for the solid color. And the pattern I'll link below. It's actually so easy. Like if you're a seasoned crocheter, you could figure this out yourself. But I didn't. I wanted to know like the stitch counts and how many rows to make each thing. So I went ahead and bought the pattern. It's by Ella Marie Home. And all you're really doing, if you're not a crocheter, you could like watch a tutorial today, pick up a hook at your craft store, and do this blanket this weekend. It's really easy because it's only single crochets. It is the easiest crochet stitch. It's the first crochet stitch that you learn besides like a chain stitch, which makes your foundation row. It's the next easiest stitch. And I'm using an extra thick yarn. It's Bernat. How do you pronounce it? Is it Bernat or Bernat? Anyway, baby blanket yarn, and it's super thick and super soft. And I'm using a size N hook, which is enormous. It's a big old hook. I wish I brought. I have another one. It's a huge hook like that. So basically it just stitches up super fast because the yarn takes up so much, like you're stitching basically a ½ inch on each row just by doing the most basic stitch. So that's what I'm doing. It has a wide white border that's going to come all the way around it. So once I finish all the rows, it'll have that border. I'm making them both the same blanket, and I decided to make it in neutral tones instead of like, you know, green or pink or blue. One colleague knows she's having a girl. The other one is not going to find out. But I thought I went with neutral tones because that way they can use it even when they're a little bit older. It can like transition into just like a home blanket, and it doesn't have to be associated with kid colors, you know. They're both kind of, well, one of them especially has like a good sense of home design, so I think she will appreciate the neutral tones. So, and then I'm just making the same for both of them. So that's a fun one. Like basically, when did I stitch that? Oh, on the this Wednesday's Stitch and Chat on Twitch with Michelle G. I got through like an enormous chunk of it. It works up so fast, especially when you're using thicker yarn. I've heard of people, I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard of people crocheting with like they will rip up t-shirts and into like bands. They'll just like cut around it or rip up stretches of t-shirt and then make that, twist it up, make that into a yarn. So for those of us who are more trying to be environmentally conscious with our crafts, that might be a cool thing. Like also like flannel blankets. I think you can do that, like cut strips of it and then crochet or knit with that. I haven't tried it myself though, so I don't know how that works, but just a thought, something to think of. Okay. My next one is I started, why do I do this? I started another full coverage piece, and I'm just calling it Steve's bike. He doesn't know about this, and I don't know if he can hear me upstairs because sometimes the vent carries. So I will put a picture up. So Steve, you know my husband Steve, I talked about him before. He is a Chicago historian, and he runs bike tours into the neighborhoods of Chicago. So not the touristy downtown, but he takes you through the neighborhoods to talk about the history of all of the different peoples that have come and gone. And he, along with his research, so his routine, like now we're approaching his off season a little bit, although there are some people who still do tours, like as long as it's not wet outside. He does a lot of research during this time of year. So he will read a book on Chicago history, and then he will spend days biking out to all the places mentioned, and he'll take photographs. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, he's Chicago Bike Adventures on Instagram. I'll link him below. He takes fantastic photos, and he always has his bike in front of, like, in the picture. So he loves like street art, so he'll take pictures of murals and he'll have his bike there, or pictures of like beautiful architecture, he'll have his bike there, or parks, or whatever it is. He'll put his bike. And so a lot of it, if you look at his Instagram page, it's all his pictures with his bike there, and then like historical information. So I took one of his pictures. It's his bike in front of a mural by Felipe Pantoni, who's an Argentinian street artist. And he has a mural. It's on a stretch called the B Line. It's on Hubbard Street in Chicago. The B Line, it's just like a whole section. It's a whole strip full of murals. Chicago's fantastic for street art anyway. There's street art everywhere. He's up there. But the Beeline has like a stretch set aside for street artists. So Felipe Pantoni does a lot of like color block kind of art. And so I took one of Steve's pictures from Instagram and I put it into Pictopat, which is like a pattern maker. It's a website that makes patterns. And I had to make, you can set the dimensions and the count of fabric that you want to do it on. So I set the dimensions very high because I wanted a detailed picture. If you make the dimensions of your finished size very small, like let's say you make it 5x7, it will create a very granulated picture, pixelated, granulated picture that does not have any detail. So if you set the finished size to large, I think I made mine like 300x300, it will create a more detailed pixelated picture. And then it maps out all the DMC colors you need to achieve that picture. So I don't, by now I should have put the picture in, the photo that I used. So I'm trying to stitch up that picture for him. And I just got the teeniest, tiniest start on it. Here's what it looks like. So this is going to go with the bottom left corner of the picture. It's the part of the mural that's the black square. And so this is the shadow of his tire in that black square. What I love about that picture is that he took it with the light shining on the mural so that you can see the shadows of his bike. I think it's so cool. And so all those shadows are going to come through in the stitching. So that's what I'd like to try to do. This was easy. DMC 310, I just kind of started it and followed it along. So you can sort of see the shape of the tire. And this is the edge right here. So that's as far as it goes there. This is not the bottom though. The bottom, it'll go a little bit lower here. So I'm excited to see how that comes out. There are a lot of stretches of that pattern. Like when you get up to the color block sections of the mural, there are enormous chunks that are just solid colors. That's going to be fun. I mean, it'll be easier to do. The part that scares me on full coverage is like the confetti, the parts that blend or all the different colors. That is scary to me. But the truth is I've been watching a lot of Flosstubes I've been following Instagrammers who do full coverage, and I have a few to mention. I mean, you're going to know all of these people, I think. The first one is Debbie, Mama Bear Stitchery. She does fantastic full coverage. I'm just in awe. I look at them and I'm in awe of what they're able to do. And Debbie doesn't do exclusively full coverage, but it amazes me that stitchers are able to finish regular projects and full coverage projects. How do they do it? They probably don't start 10 things a month like I do. And then Vani, who's Thread the Needle, oh my gosh. Vani had a few videos, it's been like 2 or 3 videos ago now. Vani did a finish parade that was all full coverage finishes. She had like multiple full coverage finishes to show. It was so cool. And they were all framed and beautiful. It's just totally inspiring to see that. Like, it makes you feel like you could do it too when you see that people do multiples. And then I have to recommend these 3 are on Instagram. They don't have a Flosstube, but I sure wish they would start one because they would be fun. Like all 3 of them together, if they did one, I think it would be so fun. So the first one is Ruth. Hi, Ruth. I don't know if Ruth watches anymore. Ruth was one of the first people to comment on my first video. So I've been following her on Instagram for a long time. She is Peaceful Koala Stitcher on Instagram, and her sister Jo, who is stitchflow.jp, and their friend Janet, who is jreeve, I want to say it's 582, but check below because I will link all of them below. They're full coverage fanatics, but they also do other things. So like the 3 of them, I think all 3 of, definitely 2 of them recently finished an enormous owl forest piece. It's like a 400 or 500 by 300, something really big. That it's that everlasting forest. And they've been selling that together. So it's been kind of cool to see their progress, like each chunk that they finish on that. But Ruth just posted recently, like yesterday or maybe this morning, that she's almost done with a really pretty elephants full coverage piece. It's beautiful. That's one to keep an eye on. And then Jo just finished a gorgeous full coverage. It's like a watercolor tulips painting. It looks so hard to do because it's all like the same shades of color. The whole thing is all same shades of color. It's amazing to see. And then Janet is doing a really beautiful color combo for the Modern Folk Embroidery, the stitch along, and she's more or less kept up with it, I think. So you got to check out all 3 of them. They're just so fun to follow and see what they're stitching on. And I don't know if any of them watch anymore, but I sure wish they would start a Flosstube. It would be fun to see, just hear them talk about cross stitch and see what they're working on too. Here's some of the info on that Steve's bike pattern. So Pictopat is the website. You can just Google Pictopat. You upload a picture to it and then it turns it into a pattern. It's 25 count easy grid. I'm using 2 strands and I'm doing tent stitch on it. So you're only doing half the X. I'm using, because usually on 25 count, you do 1 strand and you do an X. Instead, I'm doing 2 strands and doing just the angles. So that's why I can do this in an evening. Even if it's a tired evening, I can do that. It works up much quicker. There are some tiny gaps in the fabric. See how there's a little bit? I'm not bothered by it. I'm going to keep it up. From far away, you can tell you can see it. So it doesn't bother me. I'm going to use the DMC that was suggested by Pictopat. And then the mural is by Felipe Pantoni. Okay, moving right along. This is going to be so long. I hope you have like a long project you've set aside to stitch during this. I love long floss tubes. I know for some people it's a time issue, and so they don't want to get like stuck into that. But I love long floss tubes, and mine are long because I wait till the end of the month and I talk about the whole month. So thanks for sticking around if you're still here. Okay, more new starts. Don't ask me why I started. This is such a random new start. It's my first Shannon Christine design. And I've been calling it Hugs in a Cup, but it's called Tea Break. And there's a companion piece called Coffee Break, which I don't have here in front of me, but I do have it. They're teeny tiny. This is 58 by 54, just this one. So my idea is to stitch them both together. So here's what I've got so far. You're seeing a little bit of the coffee mug here and just a little bit of the border. I didn't get very far. I started this while watching Dune with Steve, and I ended up paying attention to it, so I couldn't get as much stitching done as I wanted to. But it's like half, so the tea part will go to here, and then I'll still be able to fit coffee right next to it. So that's the plan. I'm using Called For DMC. This fabric is Zweigart curry flavor. I love it. I'm using it on 2 projects. You're going to see another project I'm using this on. And this curry flavor I got from Cross Stitching Supplies, from Lindsay at Cross Stitching Supplies. Okay, let me show you the card on it. It's not called Cup of Hugs. It's called Tea Break, Coffee Break. Shannon Christine. Just the one pattern is 58 by 54. So if you double it, you double it. And then it's Zweigart 18 count curry, and I'm using the called for DMC 2 threads over 1. It should stitch up fast. Because let's look at the pattern again. It's not totally filled in. There's a lot of blank space. So the colors are a little different, aren't they? Stitched up, but I like them. Like the handle on that mug looks a little lighter blue. Actually, it's a deeper blue. I kind of like it. All the colors look well on this. They look good on this color fabric. So, okay. I've got more. I have so many. And then we have plans, and I have another little giveaway too at the end. Okay. So I just mentioned this one in my last video, and then I went ahead and started it, and I don't know what my problem is. Inheritance by Summerhouse Stitchworks. This is a Sal that I know Ymir and Almond M&Ms is doing, and who else is doing it? Help me remember, because I like to mention everybody who's doing. Darn, I should have looked it up to see who else is doing this Sal. I'll look it up and I'll put them below. So my idea for this was that because it's called Inheritance, the thing that I feel that I inherit is Indian culture, even though I don't really connect very well to Indian culture. Like we're in a large urban area, so there is a large Indian community, but we weren't close to that community growing up. Our family's a little bit different. So it can also sometimes be a very narrow-minded and judgmental community to be part of when you're different. So we never felt really close. I mean, we have friends, like my mom has friends who are aunties in that community. And yeah, that's about it. In terms of Indian culture, I love traveling to India. It's been a long, long time since I've been. I love Indian food. I love learning about Indian history. I try to follow what's going on there because I do have not many. I have one really good friend who's from India, and I have another friend who's actually friends through my sister. They both went to Indian dance school together growing up, but I keep in touch with her too. So I do have a couple of Indian contacts, but I really don't have any close Indian friends. I'm not super involved in the community or the culture. I am trying to start a new tradition in November. If I can pull it off for Diwali, our Indian New Year comes in November. If I can pull off what I'm trying to do, I will talk about it in my November video. Anyway, everything is long story. Long story short, for Inheritance, I wanted to make it a tribute to Indian culture. So I chose the colors of the Indian flag, which are orange and green, and that's what I'm using to start it. The only thing is it's looking very Irish, isn't it? Like when you see orange and green, you think Irish probably. So what I'm going to do is part of the pattern is to stitch your family initials into it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to need my mom's help on this though. I'm going to need Google and my mom's help to do this. I'm going to try to backstitch the first names of our family, but in our language. My family speaks Tamil, which is a South Indian language. It looks unbelievable. It looks crazy. The written alphabet has like all these symbols. It just looks so different. So I will try to put a picture because I think I tried to Google Translate like all of our names to see how it'd be written in Tamil. And I'm going to try to backstitch it in our language with our alphabet. So that's what I'll do for the family initials. So I'm hoping that will make it Indian. I'm trying to decide what else I can do to kind of Indianize it a little bit in terms of motifs. I know a lot of Indian embroidery has like paisley patterns or lotus patterns. So I'm even playing around with the idea of like maybe I should do a little backstitched like lotus pattern all around it as a border or something. I'm open to ideas. If any of you have ideas on that, let me know because I'd like to. I mean, it's like a Quakery pattern, a samplery Quakery pattern. So it obviously looks more European than Indian. And the colors alone won't be enough, I think. The names in Tamil will help, but I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can do to it. This is working up super fast. Let me give you the info. So Inheritance, the Sal is Inheritance Sal, I think. I better double check that. Summerhouse Stitchworks is the pattern. The fabric is Dames of the Needle. It's Cosmic Platinum, which I got at Garon Stitchery, and I love that. It looks kind of like, I don't know, like a parchment or something. It looks aged. It's an 18 count Aida. That's why it works up so fast. I'm using 2 strands over 1, and I'm using Classic Colorworks. So this bright orange is Embers. The dark green is Erin Go Emerald. So of course it looks Irish. The lighter green is Grasshopper. And then I will probably use that darker green for the back stitching, just because it'll show up the clearest. So that's what I'm doing with that. I haven't posted, I need to post, I'm so terrible with posting updates on Instagram. I haven't posted any, so I'll try to post pictures. Anyway, that's what it looks like. I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Where are we on the pattern? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 of these stars across the top. So this is the middle. So it'll go out a little bit wider than this. But it's not a super large pattern. I'm going to have extra fabric done or available after this. Okay, pardon me. I'm going to get another sip of coffee. Are you looking at the magazine holders back there? I forgot to talk about them. They're from Blue Monaco. I have a tag right here. Let me pull it up. They're from Blue Monaco. That's the brand. They're foldable magazine holders. So I'll show you, like, they come flat and you pop them open, and then there's like a little flap that drops down to make the bottom of it. So it just like you assemble them, but you don't have to glue or anything. It comes kind of pre-assembled. So like this, fine work. This flap down here folds down to make the bottom. And that's where I'm putting my fabrics. My fabrics, and this last one, these plastic bits, those are that's my stash patterns are in there. So I've got like my 18 count Aida, my 36 count linen, and then like other fabrics that are kind of all mixed sizes, and then stash. And I have fabrics here I have to organize. And then I am using, actually I'll just show you right now. I'm using, these are comic book boards you can get at a comic book store. And I tuck them in. So like, here's what I've done. I just tuck them into an already folded fabric. If it comes with like, for example, when I order from Garon packs their fabrics in like a plastic wrap that has a circular sticker on it. I'll tuck that into here as well. And then I file it into my magazine holder. And that's how I'm keeping them. So they're not, I mean, they don't have a covering. They're not super protected, but it is dark in here and I'm in the basement. So I think they'll be okay. And I hope keeping them, I mean, even if I had them in a box, they'd be folded up. So I think folding it is okay. Anyway, that's how I've been storing. Oh yeah. So here's a wrapper. This is Chinchilla by Garon. So I would just tuck that in as well. That way, when I'm going to look for fabrics, I can like go look in my 18 count and I'll see, oh, I need a blue one. I have this one. And then the label will still be there. And then I'll just slide that in. So that's how that's been working. I did that at the end of the summer. I did a little organizing down here. So I got that going there. But yeah, magazine holders. Great for fabric storage and for pattern storage too. Okay. I have more new start. I started everything this month. I was out of control. Okay, this one is a sale that a lot of people are joining in on with Alicia at Resist Stitch. And the pattern, I wrote down the Russian name. It's an Owl Forest pattern. It's the new freebie from Owl Forest. And in Russian, it's called Ryzhia Osyn. Ryzhia Osyn. I wrote it in Russian, but I forgot the pronunciation. Ryzhia Osyn, I think is what it's called, which means like red-headed autumn. Osyn is autumn. Ryzhia is like when someone's a redhead. That's the word you use. I think it's alluding to our little squirrel friend, maybe. So I am not using any called for colors. They do DMC conversions. I just picked colors from my stash that I thought would look, this Zweigart 18 count curry making another appearance. It feels autumn to me. So I just picked other colors. The Sal is called the Pumpkin House Sal because this big pumpkin and the one next to it, they're going to be pumpkin houses. There's going to be like windows and a door in this. It's really cute. And there's another one coming up here. But when I first saw the freebie pattern, I downloaded it. And then I right away thought, oh, I want to make that house gray-green because I got a beautiful grayish green pumpkin this season. And it's just so pretty. The colors on it are so pretty. I thought, oh, I want to stitch a gray-green pumpkin. So I thought this would be perfect. And this is DMC 926, which is like what's that color called? I think it's called gray-green. So that's that color. This is DMC 919, a great squirrel color, isn't it? DMC 919. This is 317 up here. This green is Gloriana silk. It's forest is the color. And I got this on clearance at Abby. Top Knot Stitcher was selling some Gloriana silk this summer. Same with this. I got this on clearance with Abby Top Knot. This is a gorgeous color. I want to do a monochromatic piece in this. I don't know if you're going to see it. It's called Weathered Barn, and it's gentle art, I think. I think it's gentle art. It's a beautiful reddish brown. It's like a brick color. It's so pretty. The white, I tried two whites. I don't know if you're seeing the difference. One is brighter than the other, but I'm going to go with the duller one. I think it's DMC 822. This one, I don't remember what color that is. Did I write down? I did. I think it's 722. That pale orange is DMC 722. So I'm liking it. It works up quick. Being an 18 count Ada. I like the different shades in it. I think it's going to make it interesting. It's actually a pretty large pattern. I didn't write the stitch count down, but this is like the top third of it, I think. So there's still more coming down below. That'd be fun to work. I'm enjoying all the autumn stitching. I love all those warm colors. Let me show you the card. It's the Pumpkin House Sal is the hashtag. You can see how other people are stitching it up. Owl Forest Embroidery. It's a freebie. I'll link it below. Zweigart, the color is Curry. And then those are the color. Oh, yeah, it is Gentle Art. 7046, Weathered Barn, and Gloriana Forest. Yeah, that's a fun one. Speaking of fun ones, this has been a treat to stitch on this month. Do you recognize a certain hotel? A hex hotel? Look at those creepy eyes in the attic. I love stitching on this. This is by Dee's 20. And they were just talking about, they've been talking about it all summer basically in their videos and fall. But there was something that Dee had said, oh, that it's just like a very comfortable, no. Oh no, it's a satisfying stitch. It's so true. Even with Unicorn, the Pride Tapestry pattern, it's the same feeling. Because every little chunk that you stitch, you just want to look at it. You just want to hold it back and be like, wow, this looks so good. So what am I using? I am not using the called for totally because I had the called for colors, but they were kitted up with other things and I was too lazy to go look for them. So I just grabbed from my DMC box, I just kind of pulled two colors that I thought would look good. So the pinky purple one is DMC 35. It's very dark fuchsia is the color. The green is 958. It's dark sea green. I think they still look Halloweeny and they look really good. This fabric is a Fiberlicious and it's called Sunkiss. It's pretty, right? It's got beautiful variegation and it's kind of like a sand and a purple variegated color. So pretty. I'd actually picked this up along with the other fabric that I had picked up because I was playing around with both to start the Trans Pride Unicorn, and I ended up going with the other one, so I had this one left over, and now it works perfect for Dee's next pattern, Dee and Kari. I love this thing. It is super satisfying to stitch on. So I am using the called for DMC for the outlines. I'm using DMC Blanc. I'm using DMC Blanc, but I don't remember if that's the called for or not. And I am going to use the DMC Étoile that's called for. So there's going to be a moon coming up right here. I wished I had had a chance to stitch it to show you. It'll be right up here. There'll be a moon, and that's going to be an Étoile. And then there are a couple of, like, there's a skeleton in the basement. I think that one's an Étoile. There's certain things that are an Étoile Blanc. Love this thing. I want to have this ready for next Halloween for sure. It'll go up with all our decorations. So fun. It's Hex Hotel by D's 20 and Uncanny Kari. It's a fiberlicious fabric. It's Sunkissed. It's an 18 count. That's why it's working up so fast. And then the DMC colors for it. I didn't put the other colors, but it is basically a white and a DMC white are the other two colors. Fantastic stitch. It's really fun. Okay, moving right along here, everybody. I started another pattern for Steve, but it's not well, it kind of is a full coverage a little bit. It's by Awesome Patterns Studio, and I'll see if I can put a picture up. It's the Millennium Falcon. He told me that he really if I stitched something from Star Wars, what would he want? He suggested that. So I started it. You can barely tell anything. This is the front of the ship here. So there's going to be another mirrored part of it here. The ship is going to be pointing up like that. And then there's some like kind of nebula cloud thing happening here. And then I think these are like light rays coming out of it, maybe. I can't remember exactly. This fabric is Night Sky by Fiber on a Whim. Yes, by Fiber on a Whim. I got it from Abby Topknot. It's a 14 count, so I'm using 3 strands over it. Good coverage. Looking good. Now, the pattern is a full coverage pattern. It's small. I don't have the stitch count written down, but it's not a super large pattern, but it is meant to have the whole thing stitched, but I'm not going to stitch. Like there's a lot of like sky, sort of galactic-y kind of things happening all around, but I'm not going to stitch all of it. I'm going to leave the fabric showing for most of that. I'm going to stitch the ship, the lights coming in and out of it, and then certain of the cloudy formations, but I'm going to leave chunks of it unstitched. Because the fabric is pretty anyway. And it's called Night Sky, so I think it's a good match. This is a pretty satisfying stitch. Check that coverage again. Nice coverage on there. I'm just using the called for DMC on it. And yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun to put up once that one's ready. Okay. I did get a start to these. Some of these projects were ones that I mentioned in my last video. So I think I've pretty much started everything that I wanted to in my plans for my last video. This one is the really fun Wicked Siblings by Mama Witch X Stitch. I love this pattern. It's so weird. So I'm just barely starting the tree that kind of comes around the top and comes around the right side of it. So that's another super easy stitch. It's on 18 count Aida. This is by To Die For Fabrics, which I am loving right now. This is called Raven Black, and it's pretty true to the color you're seeing. It's like a charcoal dark color. It's going to be perfect. And actually, I don't have a skein of DMC 310 just lying around here. DMC 310 will actually look good on this too. So, for example, like their eyes and certain details are going to be in 310. I think it'll still look good on here. I love To Die For Fabrics. It's Kimberly at To Die For. She's got some good fabrics. Check out her 18 count Aida. It's really pretty. So here's the details. Wicked Siblings, Mama Witch X Stitch. It's To Die For Fabrics. It's Kimberly. You can message her if you have questions on anything. She's great. She's very good customer service too. The color is Raven Black. It's an 18 count, and I'm using the called for DMC on that one. I can't wait to have. I'm gonna have so many Halloween pieces ready for next year. I can't wait because I think I'm gonna be someone who can stitch Halloween all year. You know, like it doesn't have to be the season because I tend to like autumn colors anyway. I was watching. Have any of you? The answer is yes. Of course, you've been watching the videos by 911 Stitcher because she recently did a not a whip parade. She was showing her Halloween patterns and also her stash patterns for Halloween. And she had mentioned too, like she's a year-round Halloween stitcher. I get it now. It's fun. Okay, I got one more new start to show you, and then we're going to talk about plans, and I have like that one last giveaway related to plans. So It's almost 2 hours. Thank you. Thank you for sticking around. I know people have like left by now, but it's okay for those of you who are still around, or if you're like you've left and come back, that's cool too. Okay. I totally got enabled by Laura Chieco, who has recently been watching my videos. Hi, Laura. And is a fantastic person to follow on Instagram for stitching. Laura just finished a beautiful black work Halloween pattern. It's got like these 4 skulls. It's kind of geometric. It's got pretty details in it. And it's by the Steady Thread, which is, I think I'm seeing as a UK designer. And so, of course, I had to pick up a pattern from them. It's been ages since I've done a black work, but I fell in love with their Spooky Sal pattern. And I don't know, I'm going to try to put a picture up. It was a mystery Sal, but it's over now, and you can just buy the pattern with all the motifs in it. So the picture of it, I don't know if I can find a picture of it finished. I will try. I'm going to see what I can find to put up for you. But I started it. What's the best way for me to show you the details in it, because it's just so pretty. There we go. Are you kind of seeing it? So what is going to happen is there's going to be this orange border that comes all the way around, and then there are these octagons or hexagons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're octagons. There are like 7 or 8 octagons, and each one has a Halloweeny motif in it. So you're already able to tell this is the top of the ghost. This is going to be a ghost coming in here. And then there's all this beautiful work going all around it. What's the best? Can you see it? My picture is going to be a little blurry, I think. I love it. I think it's so pretty. And I'm doing this also on an 18 count Raven by To Die For Fabrics. I love that. I love the neatness of that. I think it's so cool. Like, I would love to stitch that. I don't know. Even that would be pretty for like a pillow or something, you know? It's so pretty. The geometric evenness of it. It's cool. I love it. So that's going to be a fun one. The colors I'm using are, it's a Threadworks, and the color is 10343. It's orange. It's more or less the same shade of orange. There's a tiny bit of variegation where it's a little bit darker and a little bit lighter, but basically it's the same shade of orange, all one shade of orange. And then I'm using DMC 712, which is like a cream color. 712 for the these motifs. And the Steady Thread, the pattern I got is provides some options, which is cool. For the octagons, they provide 2 different possibilities for each octagon. So like it depends on where you want the decorative stitching to show up. Like I wanted the decorative stitching to show up around the ghost, but there's another ghost motif where the ghost is filled in and the outside looks different. The space around it looks different. So there are 2 possibilities for each one. Some of them can be stitched multicolor too. Like if I wanted to, I could have made the ghost, the lining on the ghost white, but then maybe stitch this outside border a different color. I just made it all white, but I might change it for some of the other ones. We'll see. It's really pretty. And black work works up really fast because you're just stitching lines. So on Ada, it works up super fast. There are some partial stitches on it, and so far that's been going well. I don't have a problem with it. I think it looks pretty even. You're not going to get a great picture from this. I feel bad about that because I want you to see the details. Anyway, I'll see if I can post pictures on Instagram of all this stuff, and maybe you can get a better view of what it looks like. So this is the card on that. It's the Steady Thread. It's the Spooky Sal pattern. I'm using To Die For Fabrics. It's Raven Black again. 18 count Ada. The stitch count is 145 by 183. Oh, and she actually provide, or I don't know if it's a she, I don't know who does the Steady Thread. They actually provide 2 different borders. I'm doing this one, which is like a geometric border. There's also a really cool border. It looks like these gates, like metal gates all over it. Like you're entering a cemetery or something. It's cool. So there's a lot of options on this one. That's the Threadworks 10343. It's cayenne pepper is the color. And then 712, DMC 712 is the cream color. Okay. We've gotten through finishes, whips, new starts. You've heard about some of the giveaways. So let's talk about plans because I have another giveaway I want to do too. Okay. For November and December, I'm going to try really hard. So I'm starting my second year of Flosstube, right? I'm marking my first year and I'm starting my next year. So I'm thinking, of course, and we're approaching the end of the calendar year. So I'm thinking a lot about goals for stitching. I would like to take the first year I was just without abandon stitching everything. Now I'd like to tackle my whips list. Do you want to hear my stats? It's extravagant. I admit it's very extravagant. I have had 21 finishes, which is cool. They've all been kind of small though. My whips, 87. 87 whips I have right now that I've accumulated since just before I started Flosstube all the way through now. So this second year, I want to focus on that whips list. I want to tackle those whips. I want to have some medium size finishes, maybe even a large one if I can, because everything I've been finishing so far has been small. Like those ink circles patterns that I finished earlier this year, they've all been kind of like those 115 by 115 size. So I want to see if I can finish like the next size up, something that's like 200 by 200 or maybe even 250 by 250. I think I could do it. I just have to stop starting things. So I'm going to try really hard. I really appreciated with Blackbird when I did the one thread a night and then went on to stitch other things. That was very helpful. So I might try to do that. I might try to identify projects where I feel like I can finish them in a month and try to do that. I also found myself like on my ByGone stitches. Do I have it out here? I don't have it out here, but it's somewhere down below. On my ByGone stitches piece, I really spent like a few days on that this month, which is unusual for me. I usually stitch 1 or 2 days or on something and then I want to change it up. I stuck with that one probably 4 or 5 days. And that really made it. I'm so close to finishing now. So I think I just need to do that. I need to maybe on that one, I was stitching weekdays on that autumn Quakers by ByGone stitches. I was putting in my one thread for Blackbird and then stitching the evenings after school on that. And then the weekends, I would choose something else to stitch on. So that kind of is how the balance, I do my new starts or whatever on the weekends. So I think I want to try to do that, try to just spend more time on each project, identify a few that I feel like I could really finish. I would love to have some finishes by December, because in December, at the end of the month, when I do my usual check-in video, I'll be on break. So I think I'm going to make that video a whip parade, my first whip parade. I haven't done one before, but I have plenty to show now. And when I get to that whip parade, I don't want to have all those 87 whips to show. I'll have the time to do it, but I'd rather have some of those off my list by then. So I'm really going to try to finish or chip away, get things closer to a finish. Ooh. I don't know what Steve's doing up there. Okay, that being said, I have a cell. It's these cells that are going to get me every time. So I have a cell that I'm thinking I'm probably 80% there to do it, to join in on it. It's the 25 Days of Rainbow cell that's in December. And that's co-hosted by Kirsten, who is 23 Flavors of Stitching, both on Flosstube and on Instagram, and Alicia, who is AC Stitches. And I really I was watching Kirsten's Flosstube video where she talked about this. It's the Liz Matthews, the rainbows. It's like a grid of all these rainbows, or like repeated motifs of rainbows. I guess there are 25 of them. And they're starting it on December 1st, and they're kind of counting it down. And you would think that's an Advent, right? Because it's leading up to Christmas. Well, Kirsten said a really wonderful thing. She said, when you look at rainbows, they make you think of hope and possibilities and optimism. So they're looking at it more of as like a countdown to the new year, a countdown to a new beginning, a fresh start. I love the sentiment of that. So I do have the pattern. I picked it up with like other expo things from Abby Topknot. So, and I have plenty of DMC. I'm actually thinking of doing, if I do it, I'm thinking of doing it in like pinks and purples. That's kind of my idea. I have a lot of pinks and purples that I don't use and I like them. So that's just an idea. If I have one more start, that I would try to save and join in on that one. So we'll see. I really want to chip away at my whips though. That I'd like to focus on that for this time around. Okay, December whip parade. Black sampler November. I'm not stitching on the project I had originally, the no more. I'm not coming back to that this month. So instead I'm going to pull out my Silhouettes from Teresa Kogut, because that one I was doing in like a charcoaly black, and it's Halloweeny and I'm stitching Halloween anyway. So I think that's what I'll work on for that. And then let's get to my last giveaway. Okay, so in January, I'm gonna do it. Let's just do it. I want to start a sal, but I don't know if anyone's gonna be interested in it. So let me just put it out there and you can think about it. There is a beautiful pattern by Java Stitches on Instagram. It's Era is the name of the designer. Let me grab a sip of water. So Era is a designer from Indonesia, cross-stitch designer. And can somebody tell me, because the more I thought about her and looked at her patterns, part of me was wondering, like, did somebody talk about her before? Like, did Michelle G or somebody mention her before? I couldn't remember for sure if I just came across her or if I had heard about her before. You can let me know if she sounds familiar. Anyway, she has a shop on Etsy. Most of her patterns are these gorgeous, like Islamic calligraphy patterns. They come in a circle. They are beautiful. And she is really wonderful because I had asked her, I had thought about maybe stitching one for a colleague of mine at work who's Muslim, whose husband just passed away. He had cancer and just like had a terrible time and just recently passed away. And so I was asking Era through message, I'd like to maybe eventually stitch something for her. Do you have a pattern? Like, I don't know the significance of all these calligraphy patterns. Do you have one to recommend? And she actually recommended one of her freebies off her blog, which was really sweet. She said, oh, don't buy any of these. There's a freebie that would be perfect for this. So I'll put a link to that below so you can see her blog and the freebies. But Era is also from a part of Indonesia where they make like the traditional cloth there. There's a traditional art form there that's woven, it's weaving, and it's called a ship cloth. In Indonesian, it's called a kain kapal. Kain kapal is what it's called. Kain kapal. It's Kain, kain, Kapal, kapal. And it's translated to cloth of ship or ship cloth. And it's a ceremonial fabric. It's a fabric that's given, exchanged as gifts during all the major moments of life. So like when a baby's born, you give the family kain kapal. When two people get married, the decorations are like these huge tapestries of kain kapal with like two ships meeting. When someone passes away, they're buried with all their kain kapal. So it's a traditional woven fabric. And what, you know what, you're going to recognize it because if you know ink circles, like the big red ship of life, the moderately sized ship of life, the comparatively small sized ship of life, those are kain kapal. Like Tracy Horner is working off of traditional textiles. And Tracy Horner is pretty good about providing like context for her patterns, which I really appreciate, by the way, because another designer, a big designer who I contacted this month, who has a pattern that uses indigenous motifs, but does not have any description of what they are, what they represent, and also they make money off of them. I tried to talk to them about that cultural appropriation. That didn't go anywhere either. So I really appreciate that Tracy Horner provides context and like references where she gets her stuff from. So anyway, Era Java Stitches on Etsy is from the region where that weaving is from. And she has two beautiful patterns for kain kapal. And she also provides some nice description in her Etsy descriptions for the patterns. I will also link below that those fabrics are fascinating. There's a lot of symbolism in them, a lot of meaning, and there's a write-up I read in Medium that talks about them. So I'll link that below in case you're curious about what all the different motifs. There's like sea creature motifs and birds and the people on the ships. Indonesia is islands, so a big part of it is like ship life. So that's part of it. It's um representing life, the stages of life, and also the different worlds in Buddhism. There's a lot of symbolism anyway. So I want to take, Era has two patterns. She's got a red one and a blue, like a gray blue one. I want to start a sal where we stitch the blue one, but I want to set it up kind of like, is it Deborah Carroll who took the Sarsi Girl pandemic pattern and then divided it up so that they're doing a section each month? I think she's also doing like giveaways and stuff like that. I don't want to get that involved with it. But what I'd like to do is take that Kain Kapal pattern and split it up into sections and see if anyone wants to do a section a month with me. So, like, for example, we would do maybe the topmost border in January, and then the next border in February, and then maybe a little bit of the side border in March, and then maybe part of the ship in April. So each month I would like section it off, and we'd try to do a section each month. So I would just call it the Kain Kapal Sal, probably. I would want to use the Indonesian term and not use English, which is like a colonizing term. That the history of that weaving is super interesting because basically it's experiencing a revival, and it was considered lost. Like the weaving techniques for it were considered lost for a long time due to lots of reasons. Like the stuff I read was citing colonialism as a reason because Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch and by Japan. So I think some of the artisans lost, like their work was, they had other work commissioned, so they couldn't be working on traditional work anymore. Also, there was an enormous volcanic eruption, Krakatoa, in the 1800s, and that wiped out a large part of the population. So I think it's just cool that Era is taking these traditional textiles and she's creating something new from it. And Steve and I have always wanted to go to Indonesia, and we got the house now, so we're not going anywhere soon. So this will be kind of my way to read and learn about Indonesia too. So I would like to see if you'd like to join me on it. And that means I'm giving away a copy of the Kain Kapal ship pattern. So I asked Era if I could buy a second copy to donate, and Era said what she would prefer, instead of paying for the pattern again, she preferred that I would just go ahead and give it with the note that whoever receives this, please don't share it. Please don't pass it along. It's a digital pattern. It could be very easy to like pass it along, but please don't do that. And she said instead use the cost of that I would have paid for that to donate to Palestinian relief. So I'm going to donate to the same organization that I've donated before, to Palestine Children's Relief. So I'm giving away that pattern. The keyword for it is, we're going to put it all together in one word. It's going to be Kain Kapal. We're going to use the actual word for it. The spelling of it is going to be below. So if you're not sure, I'll spell it for you now. It's Kainkapal. Use it all as one word. And if you're interested in that pattern, even if you're not planning to sell it with me, if you look at it and you like it, if you see the picture and you like it, feel free to enter for that one. Same guidelines. Please do not mention giveaways or anything related to giveaways. Be 18 or older for the giveaways too. And please be a subscriber, and please fill out the Google form with your contact info. Do you know what? I think we're here at the end of this thing. So it's been a fantastic year. I've loved meeting so many of you, and the personal connections, that was the part I never anticipated from Flosstube. Also just the joy of stitching and stitching more and using materials. Everything about it has been fantastic. So thank you for joining me on this journey. It's going to keep going. Wish me luck. Cross like all the appendages you can. I'm going to try to chip away those whips. We're working towards a great whip parade in December. And let me know if you want to join Kain Kapal Sal. That would be fun to do together. I'll have more info about that at that December Maybe I'll put it in November. Maybe I'll have it ready for my November video, and that way if you need to prep materials and stuff, you can do that. Okay, thank you so much for being here, for sticking around, for listening and commenting. I love hearing from you, and I hope to see you all soon. Happy Halloween, everybody. We'll check in another month. Have a good one. Bye.